They're slim, they're sharp, and they cut deeper than most epics. Here's 15 books under 150 pages that'll leave a lasting impact, guaranteed. Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky, 132 pages, meet literature's most bitter man. This is the birth of existential angst. Dostoevsky takes you inside the mind of an anti-hero, so raw, cynical, and painfully honest, you'll question your own motives by the end. It's disturbing, but once inside, you'll see him everywhere. Night by Elie Wiesel, 144 pages. From darkness of the soul to darkness of history, there are few books as necessary as Night. Wiesel's first-hand account of surviving Auschwitz is one of the most searing works on the Holocaust. It is slim, but the weight of it stays with you forever. There are sentences in this book you'll never forget. This isn't just a memoir, it's a wound carved into history. Address Unknown by Catherine Taylor, 64 pages, and then the horrors of history become personal. Written in 1938, it's told entirely through letters between two best friends, one Jewish, one German, as Hitler rises to power. You actually watch their friendship disintegrate under fascism, equal parts chilling and heartbreaking. It unfolds with a twist that will leave your blood running cold. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, 107 pages. In under 110 pages, Steinbeck shows just how fragile hope really is in Depression-era America as two migrant workers chase the dream of land and freedom. And yet, tragedy lingers like a shadow over every page. By the time you reach that ending, it's too late. You're gutted. This is American tragedy carved down to its purest form. Animal Farm by George Orwell, 141 pages. A farmyard fable about equality gone wrong. The animals overthrow their human masters, only to watch power corrupt itself again. This is the cruel cycle of history, dressed as satire. Orwell's fable is a brutal mirror of power, corruption, and the lies we keep swallowing. Short, sharp, and eternally relevant. You'll never look at politics or propaganda the same way. The Pearl by John Steinbeck, 128 pages. Another Steinbeck stunner, but harsher. A poor fisherman finds a pearl so big it promises salvation. Instead, it poisons everything. A parable about greed, colonialism, and human weakness. It's biblical in its weight, yet slim enough to read in a night. The Dry Heart by Natalia Ginzburg, 108 pages. It opens with a woman shooting her husband point blank, and only then asks, why? Ginzburg's cold, razor-sharp prose makes this not a crime story, but a terrifying slice of human psychology, short, raw, and devastating in its simplicity. The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante, 130 pages. Ferrante tears open the myth of motherhood, exposing obsession, guilt, and desire in prose that cuts like glass. A woman alone on vacation observes a young mother and her daughter, sparking memories of when she abandoned her own children. It's about the parts of motherhood society demands we stay silent about, short, scorching, unforgettable. Reunion by Fred Ullman, 96 pages. A love letter to innocence shattered by politics. A devastating story about friendship you can read in under 100 pages. Two teenage boys form a friendship in the 1930s Germany. One Jewish, one the son of an aristocrat. Their bond is pure and beautiful, but history has other plans. Ullman writes like memory itself, fragile and unstoppable. Small book, giant heartbreak. Poor Folk by Fyodor Dostoevsky, 100 pages. Written when Dostoevsky was only 24, and my God, it already contains the seed of everything he would become. Poor Folk is a tender and heartbreaking exchange of letters between a struggling clerk and his distant cousin, where poverty itself becomes a character. It is a desperate, moving cry about poverty, human dignity, and quiet suffering. The compassion here will destroy you. Michael Kohlhaas by Heinrich von Kleist, 122 pages. This is rage distilled into literature. A man's small grievance snowballs into rebellion, vengeance, and chaos. A mild-mannered horse dealer, wronged by officials, decides to demand justice. When the system fails him, he sets the world on fire. Written in the 1800s, yet it feels eerily modern, about corruption, bureaucracy, and how seeking fairness can twist into obsession. A timeless tale of justice pushed to its most terrifying extreme. The Moon is Down by John Steinbeck, 130 pages. An occupied town, a quiet resistance. Steinbeck's wartime novel is a masterclass in showing that courage whispers louder than violence. Written during World War II, this is Steinbeck's protest novel against occupation and fascism. In a small town under military control, ordinary people discover extraordinary courage. It's not flashy, but it ignites something deep: anger, defiance, and hope. The Wave by Todd Strasser, 138 pages. A high school experiment in discipline spirals into a real-life dictatorship. A terrifying reminder of how easily fascism takes root, even in a classroom. A teacher starts a classroom experiment to prove how fascism takes hold. It's harmless, until it isn't. Based on a real event, this book hides its horror under the skin of a high school story. The Six Deaths of the Saint by Alex E. Harrow, 31 pages. Imagine your whole life rewritten as sacrifice. Imagine dying over and over again, not for yourself, but for someone else's destiny. This tiny 30-page fantasy novella grips you by the throat with its tragic beauty. A love story, but also a story of complete erasure. And somehow it feels bigger than most 600-page epics. And lastly, we end with non-fiction. On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, 128 pages. On Tyranny is a handbook for resisting authoritarianism boiled down into 20 lessons from history. Concise, chilling, and written so urgently it feels like a warning meant for today. Read it once, then keep it on your desk like a weapon. Well, there you have it. 15 books, each under 150 pages, yet each carries the weight of an epic. Some will break you, some will haunt you, and a few might even heal you, because sometimes the smallest books strike the deepest. Which one will you begin with?